Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Gita Marie and I love fashion. I have always loved styling and expressing myself through fashion. I just don't love the environmental impact of the garment industry. Those things can happen at the same time, at least that's what I'm trying to do. And going from being solely a fashion girly into being an environmentally conscious fashion girly has been a long journey on my end. We're gonna try and make it cool to care. I have already seen so much content on social media about what to buy for 2026, what's the new trends gonna be, what do we need, what are our essentials, what are our must-haves, what products can't we live without. One of the biggest trends that I've seen is this like my big fashion nose, and we're using like the picture of Miranda Priestly from The Devil Wears Prada where she goes, okay girl, this is my submission to this trend, but we're gonna put a little bit of environmental spin on it because honestly, like dead serious, I don't care how many ugly ass puffer jackets, windbreakers that you have. I don't care about your cow print mules. I just care about how we use the things that we already have. I care about the method with which we obtain products and not so much so the aesthetic or what it looks like. Because if you've been on the channel for a hot second, you will know that sustainability isn't an aesthetic or product. It's a method, which coincidentally means that you don't have to be a beige minimalist in order to be sustainable in your fashion choices. Polyester. I know there is a massive quality spectrum when it comes to polyester, but polyester is still fossil fuel derived. It leaks microplastic and it requires extensive chemical processing to be produced. There's also not really any recycling infrastructure in place to recycle this material, which means that it ultimately will end up in landfill. But it goes deeper. It goes even further because what we're seeing, like, polyester is by far the most used material today. You can still use half your paycheck on something that then turns out to just be polyester. I am not only anti-hauling or saying no to polyester in general, I'm specifically also, with big underlines on it, saying no to expensive, overpriced fashion products that are then just polyester. What are we doing? If we are already paying a high price for a product and it's still just a shit material, we're just paying for the prestige of the logo or the design or whatever, when we really should be paying for materials that are long lasting. Overpaying for overpriced shit that then just turns out to be polyester? Nah. Anyway, another fashion no-no on my end is dry tumbling as a default. Like using your tumble dryer instead of air drying your clothes. Sometimes it makes perfect sense, like if you're in a hurry of it's like the conditions aren't there, whatever. Using it once in a while, it's not gonna matter. But if you continuously as a default tumble dry your clothing, they will tear and break quicker. And also it just really increases the carbon footprint of your clothing and how we use them in the consumer use phase. Using it not as a default, but only in emergencies okay, like this woman is gonna die if she doesn't get her super fluffy warm towel. Not using it as a default just goes a really long way. Generally, and this is probably the most lukewarm take on this channel, but a big fashion no-no, fashion overconsumption. Buying more than we need, and the vast majority of us are buying more than we need. It's estimated that we can buy around, like on average, 5 pieces of clothing to stay within our planetary boundaries. If we buy more than 5 pieces of clothing a year, then we exceed our planetary boundaries. So trying to keep it within the 5 is a really good sort of framework that we can use. But I would also like to shit on Vinted for a while, because any chance I get. Now, you can use Vinted as a really effective tool to avoid supporting shitty fast fashion companies, obviously. But the way a lot of these platforms, including Vinted, is structured is to keep you buying things over and over, is to nudge you to buy more than you need. And we're seeing fast fashion consumption going up while secondhand fashion is also going up. They're upholding each other, so to speak, because what buying a lot of shitty clothing on Vinted is doing is normalizing or keeping normal the pace with which we buy new clothing. Instead of buying something and wearing it for as long as possible, we still have the same consumer patterns, we just switched out what we're buying. But that upholds the whole system anyway. Secondhand clothing isn't suddenly an alibi to keep buying and buying and buying and buying. We still have to be conscious with it because we're still a part of it. Number 4, when vegan leather just means plastic. Now don't get it twisted. This doesn't mean that all vegan leathers are all the same shit quality plastic. There are some products like Pineatex made from pineapple skins that has a lot of merit. What I specifically don't want to see is plastic being advertised as vegan leather. That is a really shit alternative. I understand why not all people want to use leather. I haven't bought new leather products or new wool products or silk products for that matter for years and years and years, but I use secondhand options. I'm vegan, but I don't have a problem with it when it's already in the consumer cycle. Like, but these materials are here and they're long lasting. I would much rather use those. If you don't feel comfortable with that, that is completely okay too. Like that, I completely understand the sentiment and where you're coming from with that. You just don't have to substitute it with shitty vegan leather products. Then we do something else. It crumbles, it can't be repaired, it will end up in landfill, it releases microplastic, it's based on fossil fuels. How is that a good option? There's a spectrum of quality when it comes to vegan leather products, but I suggest looking into cork materials, pineapple-based leather, vegetable-based leather, mushroom-based leather. There are startups that are doing really amazing things. I suggest looking into it, or I will perhaps do a deep dive into the different options. Let me know if you want that as well. This is mostly from my own aesthetic opinion, but I do have like an underlying criticism as well. I cannot really stand logo items, logo fashion that, you know, like screams the name of the brand to the whole world. And the whole idea of buying that sort of expensive look by, you know, signaling to other people that you can afford these things, it just screams broke to me. I don't know, I can't afford a Chanel bag, but I also wouldn't want to. They have the same labor standards as most fast fashion anyway. If we focus only on quality materials that has like a really expensive look and feel, I understand it. But when we just talk about logos, I just don't. It's a big fashion no-no. I don't care where your t-shirt is from. It's so tacky. It just feels like you are paying to be a walking advertisement. And I just don't understand. I swear the people that came up with getting people to pay bank for products that just advertise their business, genius. Fashion hauls in general, but specifically Shein hauls, but specifically fast fashion hauls of any kind, you know. Boohoo, no, Fashion Nova, like Zara, H&M, like they're all the same shit, right? But Shein is a different type of shit. I have several videos on Shein and why they're worse than other fast fashion companies. Hint, hint, it's the production volume. If you are still following influencers that are sharing Shein hauls or any fast fashion haul, you know what to do. Even if you just hate watching, unfollow them, okay? To me personally, something that feels incredibly out in 2026 is saying shit like, well, how I spend my money is my business, because we don't consume in a vacuum. I hear this being said a lot when someone criticizes someone for consuming fast fashion. And to some extent, yeah, it is your business. Like no one can like legally make you stop buying fast fashion. But what you're saying is essentially that you don't care about the exploitation of the people that work in this industry. And not caring about the exploitation of garment workers is a massive ick. The hairs on the back of my neck just always stand up just like, we don't want to be criticized. We just want to live in this bubble where what we buy doesn't impact the world, and we do not exist in an ecosystem where our actions create a ripple effect and create the demand for more products to be made. We don't want to hear that. We just want to spend our money and have our fun. No, I say the luxury of having cute, trendy clothing available to you comes at the price of other people's underpaid, unpaid labor. And we are no longer acting like what we do happens in a vacuum that doesn't affect other people. Big no-no, 2026, buying specific clothing for specific events and not rewearing. And I feel like it's happening more and more. I feel like I'm seeing normal people doing this more and more. And I can trace it back to like red carpet celebrity culture, where you see people not rewearing things and you kind of want to feel expensive and luxurious and kind of like a celebrity, so you get a thing for a specific event and then you never rewear it. No, I have the same 3 dresses that I wear for formal occasions, that I wear for like graduations and weddings and like big anniversaries, all that kind of stuff. Why are we buying things to not wear them over and over? Like, people don't care that much about you. No journalist is gonna write a column about, did you see Brenda wore the same dress to 2 weddings? Gosh, and who gives a fuck if celebrities do it? But no one is gonna write a column that's smearing your fashion choices anyway. Tune it out, it doesn't matter. People don't care, wear the same things. Get formal wear, like nice party attire that you feel comfortable in, that you can dance in, that you can have full stomach in. Just have a good fucking time. Switching out your wardrobe with current trends. This is just like the recipe for overconsumption disaster. If we base our style on what is in and what's out, there's gonna be a new micro trend every 10 minutes, and there's no way that any of us can keep up. So instead, I would much rather suggest that we just take ourselves out of that equation, because we just feel miserable and untrendy and ugly when we stay within the fast fashion consumption cycle, always trying to be on trend. No, if you see someone saying like you need these trends, or like this is going to be trendy for 2026, fuck it. Wear something that feels timeless to you. That doesn't mean, once again, that doesn't mean like black, white, beige minimalism. It means something that you like now, that you know that you will like in 5 years, that you will like in 10 years. It's okay to be affected by trends and like ways of putting things together and different colors that work together, but you most likely already have something in your wardrobe from which you can interpret these trends. You don't need to go out and buy something. I feel like that's also kind of a misunderstanding, that in order to follow trends, you need to consume new things. You can just look at the tools you already have in your toolbox and interpret them in your own way. That is so much more creative, so much more fun. It's going to create a whole unique, specifically you personal style, instead of just being like a copy-pasted version of every other basic influencer on the internet. We don't want that. Just gonna give a big hate shout out to rayon / viscose. Just overall, I just did a massive deep dive into bamboo fiber, and I really suggest you watch that, because there's a lot of misleading marketing going on, and honestly just big eye opener. Lastly, we are not pitting people against each other anymore. In 2026, one of my biggest fashion no-nos is consuming or supporting any kind of content with the who wore it best format. This is both true for men and women, but I feel like traditionally we tend to pit women against each other a whole lot more than we pit men against each other. And we're gonna like look at people wearing similar outfits or like even the same clothing, and we're gonna discuss who looked the best. Fuck, that sounds awful. That whole kind of idea that fashion and the way we express ourselves is a competition with other women or with other people in general. Why are we doing this to ourselves? And why are we doing this to other people as well? I don't want to see that kind of shit in 2026. I just want to see people uplifting each other, like complimenting each other, giving each other constructive advice, instead of just pitting people against each other and going, you looked ugly, she looked better. Who asked you? These are my fashion notes for 2026. As someone who loves fashion and style, I love to express myself with clothing. I just don't love the overconsumption, exploitation aspects of the garment industry. Let me know what your big fashion notes are, and put them down below in the comments, and let's share with the group. Thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing day, and I will see you guys next time. Take really good care of yourselves. Until then, bye.